Olivia adjusted her dress in front of the mirror, smoothing down the fabric as she checked her reflection. The deep emerald green fabric hugged her figure, a choice she had not made in a long time. A part of her told herself she was doing it for Daniel, that she wanted to reignite the passion between them. But deep down, she knew the truth. Daniel walked past the bedroom doorway, already dressed in his usual navy suit, fixing his tie in the reflection of the hallway mirror. He glanced at her briefly. "You look nice," he said before turning back to his tie. A small pang of disappointment settled in Olivia's chest. "Thanks," she murmured, but the words felt empty. She waited for more, for a real reaction. Daniel grabbed his laptop bag. "I have a late meeting tonight. Try not to wait up." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Again?" He sighed. "I know it's been a lot lately. It's just temporary, I promise." She nodded, pretending to understand, but resentment burned inside her. She had heard that promise before. 7 years of marriage, and this was what they had become, passing ships, exchanging pleasantries without depth. As Daniel headed out the door, Olivia grabbed her phone, her fingers hovering over the messages. She hesitated before clicking open a new text. "Looking forward to tonight. I hope you don't cancel on me too." The response came quickly. "I would never." Her pulse quickened. The corporate gala was extravagant, held at a 5-star hotel with chandeliers casting a golden glow over the ballroom. Olivia moved through the crowd, her glass of wine in hand, exchanging polite smiles with colleagues. But her mind was elsewhere. She felt his presence before she even saw him. A subtle shift in the air, a deep voice carrying through the room. When she finally turned, Nicholas Vaughan was standing just a few feet away, engaged in conversation with executives, his expression confident, his stance commanding. As if sensing her gaze, he glanced up, his sharp blue eyes locking onto hers. A slow smirk tugged at the corner of his lips as he excused himself and made his way toward her. "Olivia," he murmured smoothly, his voice low enough that only she could hear. She forced a casual smile. "Nicholas." His eyes flickered over her, taking in every detail. "That dress is dangerous." A rush of warmth spread through her, but she kept her composure. "I will take that as a compliment," he chuckled, sipping his whiskey. "You should." His gaze lingered. "You seem distracted." She swallowed. "It's just been a long week." Nicholas tilted his head. "Daniel?" The way he said her husband's name sent a shiver down her spine. She hesitated before answering. "Work has taken over," Nicholas hummed. "That man has no idea what he's neglecting." Olivia's grip tightened around her glass. "It's not like that." His smirk deepened. "Then what is it like?" Before she could respond, he leaned in, his breath warm against her skin. "Come upstairs with me. Let's have a drink where we don't have to pretend." Her heart pounded. "Nicholas, I'm not asking for anything more than your company." His fingers brushed lightly against hers, barely there, but enough to send a jolt through her body. "For now." Her resolve wavered. She knew she should say no. She knew this was the line she had promised herself she would not cross. But she nodded. The hotel suite was dimly lit, the city skyline visible through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Olivia stood by the bar, watching as Nicholas poured them both a drink. The silence between them crackled with tension. He handed her a glass, his fingers brushing against hers. "Tell me something, Olivia. When was the last time you felt wanted?" She exhaled slowly. "That's not fair. But it's true, isn't it?" He stepped closer. "I see the way you look at me, the way you hesitate when I get too close. You want this." Her breath hitched. "It's complicated." Nicholas smiled. "Nothing has to be complicated. Not here." She closed her eyes for a moment, battling the war inside her. But when she felt his hand slide along her waist, his lips grazing her jaw, every thought of Daniel, of her marriage, of consequences, melted away. She turned to face him, their lips inches apart. "Just once," she whispered. Nicholas chuckled against her skin. "Lies sound so pretty when they come from you." And then she stopped thinking. The affair began with stolen moments, a lingering glance across the office, a late-night text that turned into an invitation, meetings that had nothing to do with work. Olivia told herself she was in control, that she could stop whenever she wanted. But with every whispered promise, every touch, she felt herself slipping further. Lying became easy. "I have a work dinner. I'm staying late at the office. There's a conference I can't miss." Daniel barely questioned her anymore. He trusted her. He loved her. And she was betraying him in the worst way possible. But Nicholas made her feel alive. He made her feel like she was the centre of the world. She should have known that anything that felt too good to be true never lasted. Because the moment she started believing she was untouchable, everything began to fall apart. Olivia checked her reflection in the mirror, adjusting the neckline of her blouse as she prepared for another evening with Nicholas. The thrill still lingered, the excitement of being desired by a man like him, intoxicating. She told herself it was just an escape, something temporary, a secret she could keep locked away. Her phone vibrated on the vanity, displaying a new message. Nicholas. Same sweet. 8 p.m. Don't keep me waiting. A rush of adrenaline surged through her, the secrecy, the anticipation, it all felt like a dream she had no intention of waking up from. She glanced toward the bedroom where Daniel's clothes lay folded neatly on the chair. Guilt flickered for a brief moment, but she shoved it down, convincing herself that what he did not know would never hurt him. Dinner with Daniel was a quiet, familiar routine. He scrolled through his emails while she picked at her food, their conversation minimal. "I might be late tonight," Olivia said casually, reaching for her wine glass. Daniel barely looked up. "Work event?" She nodded, her pulse quickening. "Yeah, just a small gathering. I'll be home before midnight." He gave a short nod, returning to his phone. "All right, be safe." Her stomach tightened. She waited for more, questions, curiosity, anything, but Daniel barely seemed to register her words. For a fleeting second, she wondered if he already knew, but then he smiled at her, the same familiar, comfortable smile he had always given. And she knew he suspected nothing. Nicholas was already waiting when Olivia entered the suite. He stood near the window, the city lights casting a golden hue over his features. A half-filled glass of whiskey rested in his hand, the air between them thick with anticipation. "You're late," he murmured, his eyes trailing over her figure. She smirked, closing the distance between them. "You love making me feel guilty." His fingers brushed her waist, pulling her closer. "Only when it works." Their lips met, and the world outside ceased to exist. Every stolen moment, every whispered promise, every risk, it all led to this. Weeks passed in a blur of secrecy and desire, late-night texts, hotel keys hidden in her purse, lies told so smoothly they became second nature. Daniel never questioned her. If anything, he seemed to be growing even more distracted with work. She convinced herself that made it easier, that the distance between them justified what she was doing. But the guilt was starting to creep in. Every time she came home, the scent of Nicholas's cologne still clinging to her skin, she wondered if Daniel could sense it. Every time she kissed him goodnight, she questioned if she had already crossed the point of no return. And then the first crack appeared. One evening, as Olivia prepared to leave the office, Nicholas's secretary stopped her near the elevator. "Mr. Vaughan left something for you," the woman said, handing over a small envelope. Olivia frowned, opening it. Inside was a single note. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. No excuses. Her stomach twisted. Nicholas was becoming more demanding, less patient. He no longer asked, he expected. She forced a smile, tucking the note into her purse. Thank you. As she stepped into the elevator, her phone buzzed. Daniel. Where are you? Her pulse spiked. He never texted her during work hours. She hesitated before replying. Just wrapping up at the office. Everything okay? The dots appeared, then stopped. A minute later, another message. Yeah, just checking in. Something felt off, but she ignored it. The following night, Olivia arrived at the suite, expecting Nicholas to greet her with his usual smirk. Instead, he was pacing near the window, a cigarette burning between his fingers. You're late, he muttered, his tone sharper than usual. She set down her purse. Traffic was bad. He turned, eyes narrowing. Don't lie to me. She stiffened. I'm not lying. Nicholas exhaled, tapping his cigarette into an ashtray. Your husband called me today. Her blood ran cold. What? He wanted to discuss a potential investment deal. Nicholas's gaze sharpened. He acted normal, too normal. Olivia swallowed hard. That doesn't mean anything. Nicholas stepped closer, his hand grazing her chin as he tilted her face toward his. Are you sure? A chill ran down her spine. Something was wrong. When Olivia arrived home later that night, Daniel was sitting on the couch, a drink in his hand, his expression unreadable. Hey, she said cautiously, setting her purse down, you're up late. He nodded slowly, taking a sip of his drink. Yeah, couldn't sleep, she hesitated. Everything okay? His eyes met hers, steady and unnerving. You tell me, her heart pounded. What do you mean? Daniel exhaled, setting his glass down. Do you love me, Olivia? Her breath caught. Of course I do. His jaw tightened. Then tell me the truth. Panic surged through her veins. Daniel, how long have you been screwing him? The room spun. Her lips parted, but no words came. Daniel let out a bitter laugh, shaking his head. You think I'm stupid? Tears burned in her eyes. I never wanted to hurt you. He scoffed. Then maybe you should have thought about that before sneaking around behind my back. She took a step closer. Please, let's talk about this. He raised a hand, stopping her. Don't. Just don't. Silence stretched between them, suffocating. Finally, Daniel exhaled, his voice quieter. I wanted to believe you. I wanted to think that I was imagining it. But I'm not an idiot, Olivia. Her hands trembled. I can fix this. Just give me a chance. His expression hardened. It's too late for that. She reached for him, desperate. I love you. No, you don't, he cut her off, stepping back. If you did, you wouldn't have done this. Tears streamed down her face. What happens now? Daniel's jaw clenched. Now! He turned toward the kitchen counter, picking up a manila folder. Now, you sign these. Her stomach dropped. Divorce papers? He nodded. I'm done, Olivia. She shook her head violently. Number, you can't just throw everything away. Daniel let out a dry laugh. I didn't throw anything away. You did. Her legs gave out, and she collapsed onto the couch. Please. He didn't respond. He picked up his car keys and walked toward the door. Just before leaving, he looked at her one last time. You made your choice, he said. Now you get to live with it. And then he was gone, leaving her alone, drowning in the wreckage of what she had destroyed. Olivia walked into the office, balancing a cup of coffee in one hand and her phone in the other. The usual hum of morning chatter filled the air, but as soon as she stepped past the reception desk, the noise died. Heads turned. Conversations stopped. The weight of dozens of stares pressed down on her, and a strange, icy sensation crawled up her spine. Her assistant, Megan, looked at her with wide eyes, lips slightly parted as if she wanted to say something but could not find the words. Olivia frowned, pausing in her tracks. "What?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. No one answered. Instead, Megan slowly lifted a trembling hand and pointed toward Olivia's laptop on her desk. Heart pounding, Olivia rushed forward, nearly knocking over her coffee as she slid into her chair. The screen was already awake, dozens of emails flooding in, her inbox flashing with the same subject line over and over again. Urgent, office-wide memo, private content leaked. She clicked the first email with shaky hands. A set of attachments loaded. Her stomach dropped. Photos, messages, hotel bookings, all there, lined up in neatly compiled files, time-stamped with damning accuracy. She barely registered the gasp that escaped her lips as she scrolled frantically, her breath coming in sharp, shallow bursts. It was all there, every meeting, every late-night text, every lie she had told Daniel and the company. A horrified whisper from behind her confirmed the worst. "Oh my God, it's her!" Someone else muttered, "This is bad." Her vision blurred as panic took hold. She clicked out of the email, only to realize it was too late. The damage was done. The files had been sent to every single employee in the company. Her phone vibrated violently against the desk, lighting up with notifications. "Nicholas, what the hell is this? Call me, now." Another message came in. "Daniel, I warned you." She gasped, her trembling fingers hovering over the phone screen. This was him. Daniel did this. Before she could move, a door slammed open behind her. Nicholas stormed in, his expression twisted in fury. His tailored suit, always immaculate, seemed rumpled, his tie loosened, as if he had been yanking at it in frustration. The entire office went silent as his voice boomed through the space. "Who sent this?" He looked at Olivia, his jaw tight. "Tell me this is not real," she swallowed, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know how this happened." Nicholas clenched his fists, his nostrils flaring. "You don't know? Are you serious? Do you have any idea what this has done?" The board members had already gathered near the conference room, their expressions grim. One of them, a grey-haired executive named Marshall Green, stepped forward. "Mr. Vaughan," he said coldly, "step into the boardroom, now." Nicholas barely spared Olivia another glance before shoving past the crowd. She stood frozen as the whispers grew louder, her shame thick in the air. Megan hesitated before speaking, her voice hushed. "Olivia, I think you need to go." Tears burned behind Olivia's eyes. She turned on shaky legs, grabbing her coat before practically running out of the building. When she reached home, the house was eerily silent. She pushed the door open, calling out for Daniel, but her voice echoed through empty rooms. She took a step forward and noticed the divorce papers sitting on the kitchen counter, Daniel's signature already in place. A chill ran down her spine as she glanced around. The house was empty. Her chest tightened as she noticed her belongings, her clothes, her bags, neatly packed near the front door. She rushed to the bedroom, yanking open drawers. All of Daniel's things were gone. She turned to the closet. Her side was untouched. His side was stripped bare. Panic set in as she grabbed her phone and dialed his number. It rang once, twice, then went straight to voicemail. She tried again. No answer. She ran to the computer, logging into their shared bank account. Her hands shook as she entered the password. Access denied. Her heart dropped. Daniel had locked her out. She tried their savings account. Same message. Frantically, she switched to her credit card balance. It was maxed out. Her hands flew to her mouth as the realization settled in. He took everything. A sob tore from her throat. She had lost him. She had lost everything. Her phone buzzed again, this time from an unknown number. Desperate, she answered. "Hello?" A familiar voice, cold and detached, came through. "Olivia!" Daniel, she breathed, tears spilling down her cheeks. Please, we need to talk. There's nothing left to talk about, he said, his tone unreadable. I told you what would happen. You thought I would sit back and let you ruin everything we built. Please, she sobbed. I made a mistake. I can fix this. He let out a bitter laugh. Fix this? Olivia, you destroyed our marriage, your job, your reputation. There's nothing left to fix. She clutched the phone. I still love you. A pause. Then his voice came sharp and final. No, you don't. You love the thrill, the attention, and now you get to live with the consequences. Before she could respond, the line went dead. She stared at the screen, her body trembling. Her hands tightened into fists as she dialed another number. Nicholas. It rang and rang and rang. No answer. She tried again, straight to voicemail. Her breathing quickened. Number he would not abandon her. Not after everything. She searched for his work email, opening her laptop, but a breaking news headline flashed across her screen. CEO Nicholas Vaughan resigns amid scandal. Sources confirm he has left the country. Her body went numb. He was gone. She was alone. The walls closed in around her as the reality crashed down. Her career gone. Her marriage over. Her friends silent. Every choice, every lie, every moment she thought she had control, all of it had led to this. She clutched her stomach, sobbing uncontrollably, the weight of her betrayal suffocating her. She had thought she was untouchable. She had thought she could have it all. But Daniel had made sure she paid the price. Olivia sat on the edge of her bed, the silence of her small, dimly lit apartment pressing down on her. The once spacious home she had shared with Daniel had been replaced by a cramped, lifeless one-bedroom flat. The landlord had barely agreed to rent it to her, given her financial situation. Her bank account had dwindled to nothing, the savings she once took for granted wiped away. The comfort she had spent years building was gone, and the weight of it settled deep in her chest. She reached for her phone, her fingers trembling as she scrolled through the contacts. There were fewer names now, friends who had stopped replying, colleagues who had distanced themselves the moment her scandal exploded. She hovered over Daniel's name, the last call unanswered, the last message left unread. Please, I need to talk to you just once. I know I do not deserve it, but please. Nothing. Her heart clenched as she opened her browser. The news articles were still there, still fresh, as if the world refused to let her forget. CEO Nicholas Vaughan resigns following affair scandal. Corporate executive Olivia Carter fired amidst cheating controversy. Daniel Carter, financial consultant, announces major business expansion. That last headline cut the deepest. She clicked on it, her eyes scanning the article. Daniel's photo stared back at her. A polished, confident version of the man she had once called her husband. He looked different, stronger, sharper. His smile was effortless, his posture relaxed, and beside him stood a woman, brunette, elegant, with a quiet grace that made Olivia's chest tighten. Sophia Reynolds, founder of a successful interior design firm. The caption beneath the photo read, Carter and Reynolds spotted at a private event, sparking speculation about their growing relationship. Olivia's hands trembled as she shut the article. Her breath came out in shallow gasps as she forced herself to face the truth. Daniel had moved on, her vision blurred as she stared at the empty room around her. The walls were bare, stripped of any warmth. There were no pictures of shared memories, no laughter filling the space. Just silence. Her job was gone, her reputation was ruined, and Daniel, he was free. A sharp pang of regret stabbed through her. She had convinced herself that she was in control, that she could have it all. Excitement, secrecy, the thrill of Nicholas's attention. while keeping her life intact. But the fantasy had crumbled. Nicholas had disappeared, leaving her with nothing. She had been discarded, forgotten. The sharp ring of her phone made her jump. She grabbed it desperately, hope flashing through her for a split second. It was an unknown number. She hesitated before answering. "Hello?" a cold voice responded. "Miss Carter, this is a final courtesy call regarding your overdue rent. If we do not receive payment within the next 3 days, we will have no choice but to begin eviction proceedings." Her stomach dropped. "Wait, I just need a little more time." The line clicked dead. Her breath caught in her throat. She had nothing left. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she curled into herself, the weight of her choices crushing her. She had thought she was untouchable. She had thought she could cheat and get away with it. But Daniel had made sure she paid the price.